Am I wrong for telling my ex-fiance's parents exactly why we broke up and I called off the wedding? So I met my ex-fiance Amy when we were both 27. Right off the bat, we hit it off. Pretty early in our relationship, Amy let me know that she had a pretty wild past. She wanted to be honest and upfront with me. I told her I didn't care, but I did have concerns about whether she was actually wanting to settle down, which I kept to myself. She had told me how her past had caused a lot of strain with her parents, but didn't really go into detail. I pushed all that aside and dove in. We had an amazing relationship. Over the years, I grew pretty close to her parents. I spent a lot of time at their house helping her dad with projects. We'd often all three go out to lunch after. They are wonderful people. After dating for about 3 years, I proposed. Amy was ecstatic, but her parents were even more excited. We had what seemed like a fairy tale engagement. Allie was a coworker of Amy's, and they became really close. Allie is one of the kindest and most sincere people that I've ever met. One weekend, Amy's friend Sarah invited her on a weekend trip to Vegas. Now, Sarah was not someone I liked. She was a friend from that time in Amy's life who was a very bad influence. She would pressure her to drink, do drugs, hook up, all of that. I heard her call me boring multiple times on the phone with Amy and even told her that she should break up with me a couple of times. Kidding, of course. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but Sarah invited Amy's friend Allie, which made me feel a lot better. Allie was a coworker of Amy's and we all became really good friends over the years. They went to a club one night and some guys were all over them. They invited the girls to their suite and penthouse upstairs where they were throwing an after party. Amy and Allie declined, but Sarah guilt-tripped them into going. During the party, Allie was alone and wanted to go back to their room and sleep. She went looking for Sarah and Amy to see if they wanted to leave or let them know that she was leaving. She found them in a room. Sarah was hooking up with one guy and Amy was having a threesome with 2 guys. The next morning, Amy begged Allie not to say anything to me and Sarah said it was her fault. When they got back, Allie told me everything right away. To her credit, Amy did not deny any of it. She said she freaked out about getting married and f***ed up. I was crushed, but obviously called off the wedding and broke up on the spot. I had not told many people about what happened except my immediate family. This all happened 6 months ago. I saw Amy's parents at a hardware store a week ago. They expressed how sad they were that we broke up. Her mom, who I was close with, asked me what happened. She didn't think I was a cold feet type and could just cut Amy out of my life. I was so confused, but then kind of awkwardly clarified that when she was partying with Sarah, who they knew all about, she decided to cheat on me with 2 guys at the same time. They were sad but not surprised. They had hoped she was turning a new leaf. About 2 days later, I got a slew of texts from Amy. She was pissed that I told them and saw it as a way for me to get back at her by turning her parents on her. She said she gave me everything I wanted in the breakup and apologized a million times. It was true. She moved out immediately, worked on canceling wedding plans. It was a clean break, no drama. That said, her parents were super pissed about throwing away our relationship. They told her sister, who Amy always competed with and hated for slut-shaming her constantly. Her parents are pretty well off and gave her sister and my brother-in-law a huge amount of money to get their lives started. They promised the same for Amy, but told her that they are just going to donate it since they don't want to finance her lifestyle. I kind of knew it might happen but didn't really care. I would have been fine keeping it to myself until I found out she told them that I basically got cold feet and abandoned her. Amy says she always thought I was kind, but it turns out I was a vindictive asshole.
Am I the asshole for being rude to my stepdaughter and banning her from eating with the family? I have 2 stepdaughters, Scarlett 18 and Ava 16. Scarlett is an amazing singer. She's been in some kind of voice lessons since she was 10 and just graduated from one of the best performing arts schools in the state, where she went on a full scholarship since 6th grade. She has a YouTube channel where she sings and she's starting to make money from and was accepted into some very prestigious music schools. Additionally, she has been working paid gigs for the last 2 years and makes at least $500 to $1,000 per week, more in the summers. She's even been the opening artist at a few concerts. I'm not trying to brag, I'm just saying she's an objectively good singer. Ava, on the other hand, is not a good singer. She likes to believe she is, and she might become one if she actually stuck with voice lessons or choir classes, but she always quits after 1 to 2 weeks because they're bullying her, quote unquote. In parentheses, giving constructive feedback. I've seen the notes her classmates and teachers give her. Ava also likes to sing very loudly and or at bad times. For example, if she feels that we're too quiet at the dinner table, she starts to loudly sing. It doesn't sound good, and I honestly don't know how she doesn't hear it. If you ask her to stop, she keeps going. And if you're blunt and say to stop, that she doesn't sound good, / we don't want to hear it, she keeps going and gets even louder just to annoy you. If we're in the car and don't let her choose the songs, she'll loudly sing whatever she wants, not what's playing, to annoy us, and responds the same way to us telling her to stop. The only person she listens to is her dad. A few weeks ago, we were trying to eat and she was singing again. I told her to stop and she refused confused, so I took her plate and told her from now on she is no longer allowed to eat at my table. She can eat in her room, the backyard, her car, the garage, wherever she wants, as long as we can't hear her from the dining room. This will continue until she can behave appropriately at the table. My husband and I argued about it, but he's not home for dinner, so there's not much he can do about it. Today, she was eating lunch with us and started singing again. I told her to stop, and she didn't listen, so I again took her plate and told her to eat somewhere where we can't hear her if she doesn't want to act appropriately. Ava argued that she's a better singer than Scarlett, and that Scarlett sings all the time. I was done with her bullshit. I asked her how many times someone other than her dad has actually asked her to sing, not even paying her to be there. Just ask her to sing, or how many performing arts schools she's gotten accepted to. She's applied to many. She started to cry, and my husband wants me to apologize for being rude to her and is insisting I allow her to eat with the family again. Am I the asshole?
Am I the astronaut for repeatedly asking my husband for a new chair when he says no every time? Our baby was early and sick. For the first 2 months of her life, we were in the hospital and I got about 45 minutes of sleep 3 times a night. Now I get about 4 hours collective sleep a night, sometimes a bit more. My husband puts her to bed most of the time so I can get an hour or so of sleep. Apart from him putting her to bed, I have always been left to do nights alone. Recently, he has gotten up once or twice a night to help because she wakes from 4 to 9 times a night, and after 11 months, I am losing it. I had a queen bed in her room to feed her, but had to take it out because he kept falling asleep with her. I switched to feeding and settling her in an old rocking chair, which was so uncomfortable and difficult for the baby and I. Then it broke. From the start of the pregnancy, he said I should pay for all the baby things, and I feel like this has turned immediately into a direction that's going to piss me off. I paid for all of her clothes, toys, crib, stroller, car seat, and furniture. We pay for necessities like diapers, wipes, and medical stuff out of our shared account. I have been careful with my savings as I plan on going back to work halfway through next year when her medical needs are manageable for daycare. My husband makes good money, he pays a lot in taxes, and he complains about it almost every day. He files our taxes together, so his is reduced, which means I didn't get a return this year and missed out on money I was hoping to add to my savings. I recently sent my husband the link to a nice gliding chair. It was on sale for $600. I planned to buy it and then use it as a reading chair in a few years. He said we could get a cheaper one. Of course, I had looked for cheaper alternatives and secondhand ones, but that was the best deal I could get that had arms high enough for feeding, the gliding motion to calm her, and being able to slip out of the chair without waking her. He said no again. I continued to struggle through the nights with even less sleep until I angrily explained again how having a comfortable place to feed and settle the baby would change my life. I pitched the idea again tonight. He asked why I can't move the bed back into her room instead. I reminded him of all the times I pleaded with him to not fall asleep with her, and he kept doing it, saying he absolutely could not guarantee it. She is also used to the rocking motion now, so a bed would not work. I asked him what had changed between the times I begged him not to fall asleep with her and now. He said he didn't want to buy a chair. I told him he is putting money before his wife and child. I said he didn't care about his child's safety or his suffering wife, but he suddenly cares when it comes to money, and it's my money. He told me I was being mean, an astronaut. Here's an update. He was not at all like this about money pre-baby, but we were both working hard, earning and enjoying life, and sleeping. Most of all, I think it is the lack of sleep that has changed us and made communication and emotional regulation hard. Parenthood brings new responsibilities and pressures, and I feel for him adjusting to everything, but my life and means of income are completely gone, so it's hard on me too. I spoke to him about how I was feeling the morning after your comments started rolling in. I said how angry I was and that we're suffering so much more than we could be if we just had a freaking rocking chair. Right now I walk and sway to rock her, but she is heavy and my arms get the shakes. He replied, and this took my breath away, that he was sick of being treated like an ATM. I shot back about how I handled over all of my savings, hundreds of thousands of dollars from the sale of my house to pay down the mortgage. And then I had 9 months to save and pay for everything for the baby. I pointed out how I paid for everything she has. I asked how exactly he is an ATM. He said, let's drop it. Then he said, we have a massive tax bill right now, and it's not the time for big purchases. I know he feels like he's working so hard, but we are not getting ahead like we should be. I empathize, and I know that he works hard. I know he's doing his best for our family, but this is a temporary stage of life. I asked why I can't spend money from my account specifically for baby things, and he said it's all our money in the end. I think he's worried that if I spend hundreds now, it means my money will run out sooner. I guess $600 now hurts more and is different to $600 later. Or he is just trying to wait me out. I didn't say that part. Instead, I said that the way he is being about this is damaging the way that I feel about him and damaging our relationship. He got mad and told me to get the chair then. He said that he asked his best friend if his wife needed a rocking chair and they never got one, and then pointed out that they have 3 kids and we only have 1. Oh, well, buddy, yeah. I wanted to say that I bet his best friend never fell asleep holding their kids on the edge of a bed high off the ground. I wanted to say that their situation is vastly different to ours and comparing is unfair. Instead, I replied that this is about so much more than the chair and we really need to sort it out. Baby girl deserves parents who have a healthy relationship so she feels happy and secure. And to see that modeled for her future, we deserve a healthy relationship too. He stormed off. For attempt 2 of the conversation, I showed him the original post in your comments. Surely, as it is written from my perspective, it is unfairly in my favor. So I was worried about him blowing up, but honestly, I felt like I was going crazy about this, and although the comments were harsh, they were very clear. So I waited until he was in a better mood. He was chilling on the couch while I had the baby and was preparing her dinner, and he opened the post and read it for a bit. He said I had gone on a rant and that the post was bad for our marriage and closed it down. He then sent some texts and had a shower. I was hoping he would mull it over and perhaps start seeing things from my perspective. He came out of the shower refusing to speak to me. I apologized that his feelings were hurt and explained that people responding were only getting a snapshot of our marriage and we only know what our marriage is truly like. He said it's the lowest thing I have ever done. I explained that I only wrote the post, not all the replies. The accusations of financial abuse really got to him. He left for the rest of the evening without speaking to me. So I fed the baby her solids, played with her, bathed her, read books with her, bottle fed her, and then put her to bed. I was hoping he might be taking time to reflect on the situation, to read through my perspective and to consider why I was upset, and also to consider why he was upset. I think this has really shaken his perspective on our marriage and his view of himself. I think it has hurt his feelings and his ego. He must have come back inside at some point because I found him asleep in bed, which is when I went to have a shower. I asked if he intended to help with the medication tonight or if he was planning on doing no parenting at all. I was mad. I should have just not said the last part. He went to sleep on the couch. When I got back to bed, after wake up number 2 at around 11 p.m., he was back. The irony is now I hate the idea of getting the chair. It's a symbol of everything wrong about our relationship and the whole situation, and a reminder of how the empathetic, attentive, fun, generous man I married has changed dramatically. And so have I, to be honest. With the sleep deprivation, I am generally harder and straight to the point, not gentle and patient in explaining what should happen or what I need like I used to be. He must be missing the softer side of me. Maybe that's what he means when he says I'm mean. I really don't have energy for anything other than survival, but I need the freaking chair because I'm losing my mind swaying and walking laps of the nursery. I'll see what he has to say if he ever talks to me again. Thank you to all the people who gave me advice about my baby's bad sleeping. We are not medically cleared to sleep train her. The wake-ups are not all her. She is often woken by us giving her medication in the night and it hurts her stomach. We have to fast her around the time of the medication too. We have spoken to the doctors and had sleep consultants, and the feedback we've gotten is that we're doing the best we can with the situation we're in. I also can't get a night nanny because I won't be able to switch off. If her heart freaks out and I'm not there or it's not picked up on, I will never forgive myself. She is also still breastfed, and I haven't been pumping recently, so it's better to whap out the boob at night when she doesn't need to fast around her medication times. And if we can't agree on the price of the chair, imagine trying to negotiate the expense of getting a night nanny. It's 12:30 a.m., and she is awake and crying again. I'll see what the new day brings.
Get ready with me for my dad's wedding? I found out about this wedding 9 days ago.
I beg your pardon?
I think 9 is being generous. My dad did not tell me he was getting married. I basically had to find out on my own. Didn't know he was engaged. Didn't know he was talking to someone. Everything I know, I had to find out by myself. Now you might be asking, Mesa, do you know who he's getting married to? Have you met her? Do you know this woman? No.
I hate to say it. I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is.
I know of her, but have I ever really spoken to her? Never. So essentially, my father is getting married to a woman I have never spoken to. I do not know anything about this woman. And you know what? I'm a very nice person. Had this situation been brought up any other way, I would have been very welcoming. But now I'm irritated and now I'm pissed. The past few weeks have been the most traumatic and the most chaotic. I actually don't want to go to this wedding, but you know what? I'm going because at the end of the day, it's my dad, and I actually have a guilty conscience, which I've realized a lot of people involved in this situation clearly don't. And this is no hate to the woman getting married to my father because she's getting married to my father. I could not care less that he's actually getting married. It's the principle of the situation. My parents have been separated since I was 10 years old. It was a very messy divorce, and let me tell you, I was never one of those kids who were like, oh my god, I wish my parents were back together. I actually did not want to live in that environment ever again. Now that it's like 11 years later, my parents have gotten over the drama. Everything's final. They get along. They're almost like friends, okay? Which is great. Love that for them. The point is, I'm not angry that my dad is getting married, and I'm not angry that my parents are not together. That has quite literally never been an issue. I actually used to pray that my dad would get remarried, but you know what? Not like this. The fact that I was lied to every day for, I think, 3 years is insane. The fact that I had to invite myself to this wedding and beg and plead on my knees for a date to know when he's actually doing his nikah is insane. Not to mention, on the bride's side, there's like a henna and like all those like pre-wedding events. Guess when I was invited? The wedding events were from like Tuesday or Wednesday onward until today, Saturday. I was invited on Monday. Did I go to any? Absolutely not, because I respect myself. It's clear that nobody wanted me to attend anything, so I made sure I didn't. And just when you think it doesn't get crazier, it in fact does, because I just want you to take a second and guess how many people were invited to this wedding. 200 people were invited to this wedding, but me and my sister weren't. And you might be like, Mesa, how close are you with your dad? Let me put it this way. My dad comes in and out of this house multiple times a week to see us. Everyone can kiss my ass. Like, honestly, I'm so over everybody in this situation. Everyone is a bunch of goddamn liars. Based on what I know, is it not normal? Is it not expected for you to get to know the children of the person you're marrying? Or is that just a foreign concept? I don't really know. And you know what the cherry on top is? My mom's not invited to this wedding. And you guys might be like, oh, that's kind of normal. That's like your ex. Why would you invite your ex to the wedding? My mom and my dad are like friends now. If she were to get married, she would invite him. But he didn't invite her, not only because me and my sister clearly were not invited, but apparently that side of the family doesn't like her. And when someone doesn't like my mom, yeah, good luck getting through to me. Honestly, like, babe, if my mom wanted my dad back, she could have him like that in a second. And you know what's also really funny? My dad tried to convince us that this was a last minute wedding. Be for real. You know what? If there's one thing I've learned from my dad, it's how to deal with a lying man. Not only deal with it, but catch him in the lie too. Me and my sister were checking things once, twice, 3 times. We were checking things like his Uber Eats account to see what addresses were popping up. And let me tell you, that's how we found our address. My father, who's getting married today, is calling my mother saying, do I look okay? Okay. That says enough. Also, I can't wait for those wedding speeches, because that's when all the lies are really going to come out. Everything that I didn't catch, I'm going to catch today. The wedding is actually ridiculous. It's actually crazy. I don't think she knows what she's signing up for with my dad, and I don't think he knows what he's signing up for with her. I don't know what kind of wedding this is, what kind of marriage this will be, but hey, may God bless their union, and may Allah protect me from this type of marriage. And I'm back home, so let's quickly debrief. I'm so hurt and I'm so pissed off. Today showed me that me and my sister really are bottom of the list. So much shit came out. I found out when everyone got the invites. I found out how many years this has been going on. I found out who knew what, when people found out, when my grandparents found out. My grandfather knew before he passed in April that this wedding was gonna happen. Inshallah, I marry someone so amazing who's such an amazing father and would never do what my dad did. The woman marrying my father didn't say one freaking word to me or my sister today. Not a peep. And you know what? It wasn't gonna be me, because am I the one marrying a man with children? No. If you want to marry a man with children, maybe you should actually consider the children. Crazy world, crazy idea. Sometimes people just baffle me. I'm just like, wow. People really be out here acting all types of ways, like no consequences. I hope they're happy together, because let me tell you, it better be worth it. I just want to thank me. I just want to give props to myself for not running my big fat ass mouth, because I really could have.
I've got 2 questions about that redhead girl that everybody's mad at. One, I'm not saying she's not mean. What's that? I'm not saying she doesn't give off B-word vibe. I'm not saying it's not weird that she wouldn't shut up about that other girl's boyfriend in drama class. But what I am saying, I don't know if she broke girl code. Ooh, I don't know if she did, because I go to influencer events. There's influencers I see out. If I'm good friends with them, or if I become friends with them, I have their phone number. And I'm on the blonde girl's side because I have to be or I'll get canceled. I'm kidding. Obviously, she's the winner or the better one in this situation. But what I would never do is hear from multiple people that my ex-boyfriend is out with someone that I know of, I've hung out with in group settings a couple times, ask around for her number, to message her and say, are you out with my ex-boyfriend? So she can tell me what? Yeah, I am. Cool, thanks. Just wanted to confirm. Like, what are you gonna do? Cuss her out? Cuss your freaking loser ex-boyfriend. The thing is, if you were such good friends, it would be equally as insane on the boyfriend part. Like, if my husband fucked my best friend, he's insane too. I'm not getting back together with him and dumping the friend. You're both gone. It's because you were actually dating this guy and you weren't actually best friends with this girl. This is all irrelevant because I do think the redhead girl, although I do find her funny as her little Betty Davis ass, Ariana Grande, transatlantic. Didn't know he was yours. He wasn't wearing a collar. That line 8, that's funny. But this brings me to my second point. Barring harmful bullying, barring stuff that is illegal, why do we have to expect everyone to be so nice by the same moral standards as you? Like Blake Lively, everybody's pissed at her because she's mean. Like Mariah Carey is known the meanest bitch there is, and it's just like, all right, still gonna fucking rock every Christmas. It is time. Betty Davis was a notorious bitch. Like, since when can celebrities not just be like bitchy? I'm not calling this redhead a celebrity. I'm just saying Lizzo being mean to those dancers. It's like, okay, you were mean to some dance. Not like any of these people walked around punching the soft spot of their firstborn child's head. I don't really know what my point is here, because I guess my point is you can be a little mean in your personal life if you make hits. This redhead girl isn't really making hits. I think her response did her any favors besides make me laugh. But I'm constantly questioning over stories I see on this app, like, where do you guys draw the line for girl code? Because sometimes someone that you know dates someone that you dated. And I don't know if that necessarily breaks girl code. And sometimes people are just bitchy, and that's not a crime. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes I love Jennifer Lopez. I'm like, be a bitch. Like, I need that. You need like a spectrum. And everybody on the internet was just like this happy-go-lucky weirdo, like, you know, spread positivity. I don't want to see that all the time, actually. Like, I need variety. Bottom line. If you can have him, keep him. I'm not texting you to say, are you with him? Just fucking take. If he wants to crawl back to me, he can do that on his own time, but I'm not making it known that I'm pressed about that. Just like that girl shouldn't have made it known that she was obsessed with the man at the acting class. Why is everybody so, like, be cool, chill?
Am I in the wrong for leaving the hospital after my sister gave birth and announced the name of her baby? I, 32 female, have been dealing with infertility for 7 years now. My husband and I are prepared for the fact that we might never get to have a child together, but it's not easy. We're both currently in individual therapy to help us process all of this and find a way to be at peace regardless of what the future holds for us, but I truly hope that we're lucky enough to have a child. My husband and I have baby names picked out. We never talk about them, but we have a little note on our baby name book with our boy and girl name pick. It's in our bedroom. We don't look at it much anymore, but it keeps us hoping. My sister, 36 female, has 5 daughters, and 2 weeks ago, she gave birth to her first son. My husband was working, but I was at the hospital with my parents and my sisters-in-laws waiting for the birth. Once he was born, we were called in to meet my nephew, and my sister told us they'd chosen the name Elio for him. She said the name was originally mine and my husband's top choice, but since we wouldn't be having any kids after all this time, she decided they should use it and not let the name go to waste being kept secret by me. It was then I remember seeing my sister at my room while she was pregnant a few months before. I thought nothing of it at the time, but realized she'd been snooping. My parents asked how she could do that without talking to me first. My sister replied that it seemed like a shame to waste a perfectly good name if I asked her not to use it. I couldn't handle it and left. I didn't even say congrats or anything. I left and went home and I cried for a while. The very next day, my sister called and asked me why I made it such a big deal. She also decided to drop that she was hurt that I never discussed my baby names with her, gatekeeping them even when I knew that I wouldn't have a baby. I asked her how she could go out of her way to take the one name that my husband and I had picked. She called me sensitive. I ended the call without another word. But since then, my parents have said that I should let it go and apologize for walking out. My sister also said that I made her postpartum time very hard and it was very selfish on my part.
I'm awful at storytelling, so bear with me. But basically, I grew up with my dad and my older brother. My older brother is 5 years older than me. Me, my dad, and my brother are all really close due to how we had to grow up, which I will get into. Also, if any of this seems off, it's because I don't know the full story to every single thing that happened because I was so young. So before I even came into the picture, my mom was a very heavy drinker, just, you know, drank a lot. But after I was born, I'm pretty sure that her issues got worse. Sorry about that. So she didn't just drink, she also did drugs. So she was a drug addict and an alcoholic. when I grew up. Basically, all that I remember from my childhood is just her being drunk, calling my family members to come get us, and calling my dad while he was at work, like being like, mom's drunk, blah, blah, blah. And this is not to like shit talk my mom, because I understand that it's hard to be addicted to things. I don't really have much like resentment towards her, but I'll get into that. She would show up to my school, my elementary school, drunk and like embarrass me. She would try to drive me places drunk. She actually drove herself off a bridge. It's not funny. Off a bridge, and she was drunk. Obviously she made it out alive, but there was just a lot of bad things that happened while she was drunk. She was like an angry drunk a lot of the time, so she wasn't really nice, and she did some bad things. She like hid vodka in my neighbor's bathroom cabinet or something like that, because we were close with our neighbors, so whenever she would go over, she could like sip drinks. And keep in mind, when all of this is happening, I'm from the ages of like 1 to 6, so... And also, my mom went to rehab a bunch when I was younger. I'm pretty sure she went when I was like a baby, like 2 months old. Maybe not 2 months old, but very, very little. And my grandparents lived with us because my dad works in New York City, and he had to be obviously at work all the time. So shout out to my grandparents, and shout out to my dad, because I would probably be dead. I'm not even joking. She would have probably killed me at some point in my life if it wasn't for my dad. I've done story times on the specific things my mom did to my brother and I when she was on drugs or drunk, but I'm not gonna get into that. Okay, so fast forward to when I'm like 6 years old. My parents get divorced because, as you can assume, the marriage wasn't doing too well. So at that age, I didn't really know what was going on. All I knew is my dad was like going on a vacation or something. I don't even remember what the story was. But when that happened, my mom was very manipulative towards my brother and I, and would tell us, you know, like, your dad's a horrible person. Your dad doesn't love you. He doesn't want you guys to be with me. He wants to take you away from me. Because again, at such a young age, you don't understand what, like, okay, my mom's an alcoholic and my dad is taking us away from her because she's an alcoholic and it's not safe. She would like twist it up, and, you know. And this isn't to shit on my mother. She's a very, like, sweet person. She's so funny. She's a great person. She just had issues. But yeah, my parents got divorced when I was, like, 5 or 6. And then for a little while, we were doing the whole, like, normal divorced parents thing where I was with my mom on the weekdays and then my dad's on the weekend. But my mom's drinking got really, really bad, to the point where, like, it just wasn't safe to even just spend one night at her house, because she would get so drunk. One time she thought that she was taking my brother to school, but it was like 10 o'clock at night. So there was this one situation that I guess like pushed my dad over the edge and just like made him be like, okay, this isn't safe. And I'm pretty sure he was in Brazil, and obviously that's pretty far from the US. And I guess I called him like crying or something, and I was like, mom's drunk, like mom's not okay, blah, blah, blah. And my dad heard my mom in the background like making noise and everything. And like, I can't imagine being a parent and being in Brazil while your kids are in the US and they're like 6 years old and their mother is drunk or like off drugs. Like, that must have been the most stressful situation. So I'm pretty sure after that, my dad called it quits. We started living with my dad full time, but my mom would still come over and visit and like have dinners and stuff. But a lot of the time when we would plan things with my mom, she would show up drunk or she wouldn't show up at all. For example, my 7th or 8th birthday, we were going to this like arcade pizza place, and we went up to the house that I grew up in that she was now living in alone. Her car doors were open, the front door was open, and she was passed out on her bed drunk, and she was supposed to be at my birthday party. So just little things like that. So as I got older, she went to rehab a couple more times, but she was not really in my life at all. Again, I didn't really, like, it's not like I hated her, but I was like, you ruined my childhood, so, like, I'm not really interested in you being in my life. Because, might I also add, her side of the family wasn't very understanding of the situation, and they would blame it on my brother and I and be like, you guys, you don't understand what your mom's going through, like, blah, blah. And they were never like, you guys are, like, in elementary school. Are you guys okay? It was just always, you guys are bad to your mother. So there was that. She would reach out and try to see me and try to see my brother and I. But after letting us down so many times, I think we kind of just gave up and we're like, you know what? I'm not interested in taking time out of my day to go meet my mom when she's going to show up after she just like snorted some lines of coke. Like, I'm good. So yeah, I basically just grew up most of my life without a mom, and obviously it's an unfortunate circumstance to grow up in, but I wouldn't have it any other way if I'm being completely honest, because I think my family dynamic and growing up with my brother and my dad, as corny as it sounds, it is like what made me who I am. And my relationship with my dad is so good, and my relationship with my brother is so good, and I don't think it would be half as good if we didn't have to go through such hard things together. And like I said, I do owe so much to my dad, and he's probably gonna watch this, so let's act like I'm not saying this because I'm not a very emotional person. But he did genuinely save my brother and I's lives, and he could have just been like, this is too much for me, like I'm not dealing with it, blah blah blah, and been a bad dad. But he really went into full father and mother mode, and he did a really good job at balancing being like a girl dad for me and being a boy dad for my brother. And these stories aren't to say that I had an awful childhood, because I had an amazing childhood. Again, there were some unfortunate things that happened, but things could be so much worse, and I'm just lucky that I have a good family. You know what I mean? Because those things could have happened to me and I could have no support system, but because of my dad and my brother and my dad's side of the family and everything, I'm just thankful for it. And again, I would be such a different person if I didn't grow up with those things and didn't see some of the things that I've seen. I think it just makes me appreciate things a lot more. And so that's about it. I probably could have just given more details, but this video would have been way over 10 minutes long. Anyways, that's my little life story. Hope you guys enjoyed.